A higher days payable outstanding is usually a good thing. By waiting longer to pay its suppliers, the company could put the cash to alternative uses and require less capital to finance its inventory. But sometimes a lower days payable outstanding is good. By paying suppliers early, a company can get discounts and avoid late fees. The company will also maintain good relationships with its suppliers and not be subject to credit restrictions and harsh payment terms. Thus, a company's goal should be to optimize its days payable outstanding because a high DPO or a low DPO isn't always a good thing. A company can optimize its days payable outstanding with better accounts payable processes, better record keeping, better payment terms, and better payment timing. We're going to discuss each of these, starting with better accounts payable processes. To optimize days payable outstanding, a company should first perform a detailed analysis of its procure to pay process. Best practices include using an automated procurement system, establishing clear policies and procedures, creating online supplier portals, and centralizing accounts payable as a shared service. Companies should use an automated procurement system that can approve requisitions, issue purchase orders, validate and scan invoices, track shipments, facilitate the payment of suppliers, and allow for dispute resolution. An automated system will allow the company to reduce errors, increase the speed of invoice processing, and better time payments so that it can hold cash longer and pay closer to the due date. Electronic invoices also make it easier for the company to download invoices to its system. Processing accounts payable manually is time-consuming and it leads to more mistakes. The company should also establish policies and procedures for when payments are to be made. This can reduce the incidence of late payments, missed payments, duplicate payments, and under or overpayments. Online supplier portals can allow suppliers to track inventory levels, order status, and payments. This can reduce the amount of time spent on cash applications, disputes, and payments. Suppliers can simply log into the system, view current and past invoices, and see which invoices have been paid. Larger companies can centralize the accounts payable function to ensure common standards. For example, they can set clear standards about when the company should accept an early payment discount and make sure that bills aren't paid too early. Next, let's discuss better record keeping. Accurate record keeping is essential to optimizing days payable outstanding. A company's executives should know how much, how often, and when they pay their suppliers. Best practices include ensuring accuracy of invoices, performing accounts payable reconciliations, tracking KPIs, updating records promptly for payments, and storing and reviewing supplier contracts. A company should ensure the accuracy of invoices by checking the invoices against the contractual terms in the associated purchase order. Invoices should clearly state the payment terms, any agreed upon discounts, and the conditions of such discounts. Inaccurate invoices should be sent back to the supplier and payment should be refused. Companies should also issue purchase orders for each new order to lock in payment terms and make sure that the terms on that invoice match the terms from the associated purchase order and the supplier contract. Verifying the accuracy of the payment terms will make sure that the company benefits from any negotiated discounts or extended payment terms. The company's accounting team should regularly review the accounts payable aging listing and routinely perform accounts payable reconciliations. This can help avoid duplicate payments and overpayments, which are detrimental to the company's cash position. The accounting team should also track KPIs such as the percentage of discounts earned, the percentage of invoices paid at the due date, and the amount of late fees and penalties. Executives should then review the KPIs to identify opportunities for improvement. For example, executives might notice that efforts to delay payment have increased days payable outstanding but have resulted in substantial late fees. Corrective action can then be taken. The accounting staff should also ensure that any payments are promptly recorded in the company's records, ideally the same day the payment was made. This will improve the accuracy of the company's records and reduce the risk of duplicate payments. Working with thousands of suppliers can make it difficult to keep track of contractual terms. Thus, companies should store supplier contracts in a secure location and regularly review those contracts. It is inexcusable for a company to lose money due to an inability to track payment terms. Next, let's discuss how a company could optimize days payable outstanding with better payment terms. Best practices include standardizing payment terms, negotiating discounts or extended payment terms, using supplier performance scorecards, and buying only from pre-approved suppliers. Standardizing payment terms can reduce errors, make the payment process easier, and make sure the company receives any agreed-upon discounts. For example, if some invoices require payment in 30 days, whereas other invoices require payment in 60 days, the company might inadvertently pay some invoices too early and some invoices too late. The use of uniform payment terms reduces the likelihood of these types of mistakes. Companies can also optimize days payable outstanding by negotiating discounts or extended payment terms. A company could ask for volume discounts or try to stretch out the time frame over which payment is due. Payment terms can be extended by increasing the length of payment terms, negotiating for payment to be due in 45 days instead of 30 days, or by postponing the start date of the payment terms. For example, saying that the payment shouldn't be due until the invoice is received instead of when the invoice was issued. To successfully negotiate for better payment terms, the company could use a high percentage of on-time payments or supplier performance scorecards as leverage. Companies should also require that all transactions be done with pre-approved suppliers to reduce off-contract spending and make sure that the company receives preferred payment terms and pricing. Next, let's discuss how you can optimize days payable outstanding with better payment timing. Best practices include taking advantage of early payment discounts when appropriate, paying invoices only when due, avoiding penalties for late payment, and maintaining good relationships with suppliers. While companies generally want to hold on to cash as long as possible, in some cases it makes sense to take advantage of early payment discounts. When deciding whether to pay early and get a discount, management needs to ask, does the company have enough cash on hand to pay early? And does the cost savings from paying early exceed the benefit of holding the cash longer? For example, let's say a company is billed for a $100 purchase at terms of 210 net 30. This means the company has 30 days to pay $100, or it can receive a 2% discount if it pays the bill in 10 days. The company can thus pay $98 on day 10 or pay $100 on day 30. One way to view this is that the company has a zero-interest loan from its supplier for 10 days, as trade credit is a loan from a supplier. The company could choose to hold the $98 for an additional 20 days, but if it does so, it'll incur $2 of interest. Now you can actually calculate the interest rate the company is incurring by foregoing the discount and holding the cash for an additional 20 days. I'll show you both the APR and the EAR. The APR, or annual percentage rate, is the amount of simple interest, no compounding, for 1 year. In this case, it's 37.24%. The EAR, or effective annual rate, adjusts for compounding. In this case, the EAR is 44.59%. Thus, if the company decides to forego the early payment discount and hold the cash until day 30, the company will effectively incur an APR of 37.24% or an EAR of 44.59% for holding the cash longer. How do you know whether that interest rate is good or bad? Well, one way is to compare it to the company's weighted average cost of capital. Here's a decision rule that a company could use. If the annual interest rate exceeds the company's weighted average cost of capital, accept the discount and pay early. But if the annual interest rate is lower than the company's weighted average cost of capital, forego the discount. The higher the discount rate the supplier is offering, the higher the interest rate, and thus the more attractive it would be to accept the discount and pay early. But what if the company is short on cash? In that case, it might be beneficial for the company to borrow money from a bank and pay the supplier to get the discount if the annual interest rate from foregoing the discount is higher than the interest rate the company would incur on the bank loan. But whether the company decides to take an early payment discount or not, the company should only pay invoices when due. Thus, if the payment terms are 210 net 30 and the company has decided to take the early payment discount, the company should pay as close to day 10 as possible. If the company has decided to forego the discount, then the company should pay as close to day 30 as possible. In no case would it make sense for the company to pay on day 2. Even if the company has decided to take the early payment discount, it makes sense to pay as close to day 10 as possible. Now, if the company is mailing a check, it'll have to put the check in the mail a few days before day 10 to make sure it arrives on time, but there's still no reason to pay on day 2. But while stretching out payments improves the company's cash position, companies should take care to avoid penalties for late payment and maintain good relationships with suppliers. Paying past the due date not only incurs late fees, but can destroy goodwill with suppliers. Suppliers may respond with harsh credit terms, such as requiring cash on delivery or cash before delivery. And that's it. If you'd like to receive the PDF guide I created to accompany this video series, or the Excel spreadsheet that I made to calculate days payable outstanding, you can sign up for my email list using the link in the description section below. If you'd like to access the PDF guide and spreadsheet immediately, you can become a supporter on Patreon.